Alright guys, and right now we're in a fresh project template of third person that you can acquire straight in Unreal, from Unreal obviously. And yeah, let me get straight to the point. The things you need first. Well, it's obviously your weapon, and remember that you should have your weapon aligned, to the Y axis, this green arrow pointing forward, like this. I mean, it's not really necessary, but it's just making the whole thing clearer at some point. Alright, so silly me forgot to show you what the aim point is actually, and this is the last thing I missed to showcase you that we need. When you open your gun skeletal mesh, you should add a socket that is a child of the root bone of your gun, and it should be located right here in the center of the rear side. Yes, exactly. With front side, this one being in the center of our aim point, because this is of course the sight of our gun, and this is where our bullets gonna come from, like the ray casts that we're gonna use for shooting, of course. And to make the camera be rotated properly, you should have it so the z-axis, the x-axis is pointing forward, the y-axis is pointing right, and the z-axis is pointing upwards. You need your character mesh that I have here. In this situation, I'm using my own custom mesh that I have created, and it's not really editing any bones, character or something. It's just adding 2 bones for weapons, so I can align the weapon to the hand straight in Blender, and I don't need to struggle with positioning the socket for every gun like for an hour or something. It's just an example, of course, but yeah, we have our mesh, and if you're using this mesh, which is the default mesh, don't worry, it's gonna work. As you can see, that it has the bone, but it's not in this mesh. So yeah, when you have the character, the gun, the last thing we need are the animations. So let's get to the animation. I have idle animation for my Glock and aim pose, and well, yeah, I'm gonna even delete it and show you how to make an aim pose actually. So yeah, the first thing that we currently want to do is to open up our blueprint, and yeah, it's in first person. Open up our blueprint, it has a tutorial character. I have the camera attached to a camera socket, and I have used pawn control rotation turned off. And the reason why I have turned off is because the camera won't just rotate like this. You will have to manually program it, that in the anim blueprint you gotta program it so when you look down, this part up from spine 01 and to the top, the bones are looking up and down, and with the use pawn control rotation turned off, the camera is just following the socket. It's not like rotating down, it's just following the socket. And what the camera socket is, let me explain you. Camera socket is a socket, child socket of head, and I have it rotated like this. And the reason why it's rotated like this is because, for example, let's say create a new socket for the head. Is cam sock. Alright, and when we attach it, it's freaking out. It has to be rotated because the camera socket is the socket that the camera will come back to when you stop aiming. I hope you understand that. Well, maybe it will be easier to understand in practice when I'll get it to work. So yeah, right now I think we've got everything clear. Yep, yeah, I think we had. So yeah, for aiming we want to use the right mouse button, and we want to create B is aiming variable, and of course a float variable which is aim F time to aim. Change this to float. Yep, and when it's pressed, set aiming to true, and if it's released, set aiming to false. Yeah, just like this. So the first thing that I wanna get over with is to make the camera go to the aim point socket on your gun. We want to use a timeline to lerp between transform A, which transform A is the camera socket, and from transform A we want to lerp to transform B, which is the aim point socket on our gun. So what we want to do is add timeline ADS, just leave it like this, and open it up, change the length to 1 track, add float track, here it's going from 0 to 1, and on the update we want to set world transform FPP cam. Yep, and we want to get lerp transform, drag it here, okay, and get your mesh and skeletal mesh of a gun. I added the skeletal mesh of a gun as a component, so I don't need to create a whole inventory system. We want to get socket transform, and same for the gun mesh. We want to get socket aim point and camera socket. Yep, and we just interpolate from A to B, but another catch here is that we need to get forward vector of our rotation and multiply it by negative integer, so it's not really, in our camera is not in a gun. I think that, for example, -20 should do. And yeah, just add it up and make transform. Okay. And plug it into this. Okay. And here. And our alpha is going to be the track we have created. Okay. And when we want to trigger the timeline, we can just get timeline ADS as a variable to our graph, and just get play node, and when you have released the right mouse button, of course reverse. Okay, and I think it should work actually, but yeah, you might now think, why I created a f time to aim variable. And now somewhere we want to store the play rate for our timeline, of course, and this is why I have set it to 1, because you can just multiply it much easier. It's just like a second. If it's not working like that, I guess just point it out, but I think it's just the proper way to do it. Alright, so where we want to store our playback for the timeline is, well, it even can be event begin place, so get timeline ADS and set play rate. Oh, not this, set play rate. And how do you do it? Is divide 1 by the time to aim, and in this case time to aim can be, for example, 0.25, and it will do. Okay, so I think we can try to already. Yep, it's working. It's working quite fine, actually. So yeah, as you may have noticed, our camera is kind of rotated, like tilted, and this is not very appealing to look at. So how do we fix it is, oh, and before we get to that, the main reason why is it happening is because we have turned off use pawn control rotation. When we're gonna turn it off, it's gonna be perfectly straight. This is what it does. And yeah, turn it back off. And how do you fix it is go to our anim blueprint, and okay, here drag this back and transform modified bone, plug this here, plug this here. The bone we want to edit is head, of course, because our camera is following the head. Click head and replace existing component space. Stop exposing the scale and translation. And yeah, I think it should be like this, and we wanna rotate it about 90 degrees, positive of course, and now our camera should be straight. Yep, and it is. So yeah, wait, let me just try to aim. Of course our hand is tilted, so it's getting the whole transform like that, like tilted too, if you know what I mean. So this is why we are using the aim pose, so it's actually, you know, the camera is not really tilted. And yeah, what we want to do now is get our aim pose. So yeah, I have it here. Just remember to make it so it's aligned with the camera that you use for mockup, as for the camera mockup of Unreal Engine camera. Just remember, so it doesn't have to be perfect because the camera is aligning that for you already, but you know, just keeping it like this is a good trait for sure. But when you manage to just create that, to create the aim pose, you gotta export it, and we just want to straight import it to our Unreal. So yeah, import it for the mannequin skeleton, and yeah, it should be working quite well. And how do we play it is go to anim blueprint character, and now in our anim blueprint we want to create two new variables, which is of course just like in our character blueprint. B is aiming and F time to aim, and set it to float. Alright, and how do we do it is here, drag this back, add blend poses by bool, and if it's false, if aiming is false, just use the idle, and if it's true, use the aim pose. And yeah, we can, yeah, it's not in real time, so yeah, never mind. Just drag B is aiming to this, and time to aim to the blend in and blend out. You should also play with the blending type. I wouldn't suppose, I do not suppose that linear interpolation is the best one. The best one that fits the most for me is sinusoidal. Yeah, this one exactly. So I'm using that. And yeah, now we want to head back to the event graph. And in the event graph, I just set the character reference, which is my character, BP Foot Person character. So I do not need to get a cast to the character. I can just get a variable straight, of course. Hope this makes sense. And yeah, here what we want to do is just check if our character is valid, and then we just want to get time to aim, get B is aiming. Yeah, all right. And set time to aim. Set is aiming. Alrighty. And this should be quite alright. And I'm quite sure it should work perfectly. And it does. So yeah, that's great. And yeah, you can see nothing is glitching out. It's really smooth. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope I helped you out, and see you in a next video perhaps.